are back with another Ask Me Anything video. I actually have a lot of questions that I received from the Google form, so I'm going to try and go through them quickly. I have great questions. Please keep them coming. And if anything is customer service related, please just send that to Amy Mack, which is hello@knitcollage.com. That's how you reach Amy. And we can get those answered for you like that. So if you have a question about pattern or yarn or shipping, please ask those there, and I'll make sure to add her email address to the show notes below. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all your questions here just in the order that they came in. Will you be releasing a children's size Kaleidoscope Cardi soon? Great question. We do plan to release the Kaleidoscope patterns. We don't have a specific date in mind. I'm so sorry, I don't know quite yet. Melanie, who's our director of operations here at Knit Collage, was with me on Friday, and we are planning to do a kind of like a year-long make-along that's ongoing for the Kaleidoscope designs. And I'm not sure where the kids' patterns fit into that quite yet. If you have joined in a make-along before, then you should have access to those. If you need help with that, feel free to reach out to Amy Mack. But I'm sorry, I don't have a specific date in mind, but it's high priority on my mind, and we are working on it, juggling all the other things we have planned for release. Okay, next question. Do you have any tips for finishing unfinished objects, UFOs? I have no problem starting, but finishing is often challenging for me. Yes, I have some tips, and I think the biggest tip I have is accountability. So when you join in a make along or a knit along, having that built-in accountability when you see other folks finishing their projects, it really helps hold yourself accountable to actually finish your project. So anytime you can join in one of our knit alongs or make alongs, I think that can really help. But of course, there are lots of knit alongs going on in the knitting world in general. Having an accountability partner or a knitting friend that you can share your goals with, I want to finish this by this date, or can we meet once a week to talk about our progress on this? I think that can really help. That's something we offer as part of our knit alongs. For me, it helps to, this is what I do, this is my personal one, is it really helps to think about how I'm going to wear that specific pattern, whether it's an accessory or a sweater. I love to think about the finished outfit and how I'd style it, and that really motivates me to finish. So I might lay out different outfit options and think about how my whip as it is looks with different shirts or dresses or whatever it might be, and that gets me really inspired to actually finish it. So I don't know if that would help you, but I really like thinking about the finished outfit. The other thing I think is worth mentioning is just the Creative Knitters group that we run as part of Knit Collage. We have membership open for another 2 days, and we have a great group of folks that you could use as your built-in accountability partners, as well as Cheryl and Anne, the knitting and crochet teachers. So as part of membership, you get a once a week help session with them if you like to take it. You don't have to. And some folks within the membership actually use that help session as an opportunity to check in with them so that they have progress to share. So they use Cheryl and Anne and their help sessions almost as an accountability session. So by the next time I meet with her in 2 weeks, I'm going to have this much done to show her. And you have that meeting. So you've got to finish it or finish that sleeve or whatever progress you want to make by the time you have that Zoom call with Cheryl, that one-on-one help session. And in my mind, this is sort of like when you sign up to go to the gym with a friend, you're meeting a friend at the gym. So they're counting on you to go, you're counting on them to go. It's harder to say no when you have that time and place set and scheduled. So you could think of the help sessions with Cheryl and Anne sort of as inherent or built-in accountability sessions where you've committed, so now you got to show up with the progress you've made. So if that's helpful, I would encourage you to join in Creative Knitters for that reason. We have a few people, we just did one welcome call for new members, and a few people that have said the exact same thing. I have so many unfinished whips, how do I finish them? And my advice is sign up for a help session. let's see what the bottleneck is and let's just light a fire, let's get going, let's help you move past that so you can actually finish the things. Okay, one more question. Do you have a pattern for the tank top you are wearing in the email today? Yes, that is called the Waterfall Tank pattern. I will make sure to put it in a blog post. I just created a blog post pattern for it. It's not a real pattern. It's not completely graded yet, but people have already used it as a framework for their size and made their own. So I'll include that. I will be making that into a graded pattern soon. However, right now it's just a blog post and I encourage you to knit it. It's just been so much fun to wear. I love it. It's super slinky, fantastic in warm weather. Okay, we do not have kits for sale for that yet, but we will when I turn it into a graded pattern. But for now, it's just a blog post and we can help you figure out how much yarn you need for your size. I believe I made mine with 3 or 4 skeins, so that helps. Okay, next question. Do you think you will include the waterfall yarn in some of the mini sampler kits? I would like to use it, but think I need to get a sense of what it's like, how it works up, how it feels to wear before I buy a few skeins to make a larger project. The waterfall yarn is so pretty. Okay, I love that idea. I think right now the way our mini skein sampler kits work, they work really well with the 5 different yarns we have in there. So I'm hesitant to add in waterfall, although we could. I think that's an interesting idea to consider. How I read that question the first time was more like, can you make a waterfall mini skein sampler kit, which I actually really like the idea of because our wildflower cotton mini skein sampler kits have done really well. So I kind of like the idea of trying 5 colors in one go of that yarn. But the idea of subbing it into a mini skein sampler kit is an interesting idea. I'm open to that. And now I'm reading this in a different way. I like that idea. So yeah, we could think about that. And that would be for spring 2024 because fall 2023 is already set and shipped and here. But that could be a cool idea for spring 2024. So thank you for that. And I will give that more thought. I like that idea. My question to you is, what other yarns would you want to see with it? Would you want it to be Dreamland, Castaway, Daisy Chain, Spun Cloud? Like what other yarns would you want to see with that? Let me know. All right. Do you only make mini skeins with your more popular yarns? Because I think it would be so nice to see a mix of all of your yarns in the mini kits. Okay, that goes with that question. That's a great comment. Thank you for that. Noted. Can you share plans on new yarns or new colorways in current yarns and when they might be released? Yes. So our Happy Dance yarn that I showed you over here, that will be released, I think it's the Wednesday after Labor Day. That is when that yarn comes out, and that's our big new yarn for fall. So definitely encourage you to get some of that. It's going to be really special and fun. I have 2 new colors of Spun Cloud that are coming out as well for fall that will be available then. One is a deep forest green. It's kind of a bluey, like an evergreen forest kind of color, and then an oatmeal color. So sort of a light oat color, a little bit lighter than a camel. Really pretty. I'm very into those naturals. So those are the 2 new yarns, and I think that's it. I spent a lot of time this year this past trip, really working on the winter solstice kits and the Happy Dance yarn. So those are really my focus on my last trip to India as I was designing fall. So Happy Dance is new, and then the Spun Cloud colors, the winter solstice kits, which were 100% new yarns, 2 different lines. That took a lot of time. That was a big focus as well. So those are the new things. All right, amazing. Another question here. Hi, Amy. I saw the dumpling bag in one of your emails. I would like to make the bag and buy the kit. However, I can't locate the pattern anymore. Yeah, Meta, thank you so much for the question. So that was part of our spring make-along, and we haven't released the pattern outside of our spring make-along yet. However, I am going to put it in the design survey for our fall make-along. So if it wins in the design survey, we'll repeat it for fall. I love that pattern as an option for folks in the Western Hemisphere and like Australia who want to maybe use that, in warm weather. It's a great pattern for those people in Arizona or Florida, or really warm weather temperatures. That dumpling bag is so fantastic for folks who don't really want a sweater. They want an accessory, and I have been myself carrying it everywhere. So it will potentially be in the fall make along. And if it's not in the fall make along, then we will release it at some point this fall. So just stay tuned. If you're on our newsletter list, you'll be the first to know. Okay, I have a few big questions. Hi, Amy. I have questions about the designs that don't get selected to be make along designs. How do you decide which patterns get released as standalones in between make alongs and which ones get saved for the next design survey as potential make along designs? I have noticed over the years that a handful of patterns have been in multiple surveys, I think. P.S. Is the Floribunda Cardi getting released soon? I already have my flower design planned for the back. Yay! Oh, I love that. So hopefully you got that answer in the making vlog. The Floribunda is coming next week. So definitely get in on that. I love that pattern. And yes, this is a great question. So with the design survey, we choose the designs that are the most popular to go into the make-alongs. The only sort of asterisk to that is that I would say in general, accessories get less votes. And I always want to have an accessory in the make-along from the price point standpoint. Usually accessories cost less to make from a price point standpoint. And that means that more people can join in because price won't be a barrier. Also, accessories take less time to make. So if you're very busy with work, life, whatever it might be, or you're not someone who enjoys knitting hours and hours each day, an accessory can be a wonderful way to join in our make-along experience without having to commit to knitting a large sweater. So I always want to have an accessory. So I'll typically choose the accessory that got the most votes from the survey, even if it's like 4th or 5th in the survey, because we can't do all sweaters. We need to have that mix. So I hope that answers your question. We really go with what's the most popular. The other caveat to that is that I love to have beginner patterns, and that's why the Kaleidoscope has been in the make along for so many years. I don't think we will do the Kaleidoscope again this season. I think we're going to switch it up and maybe offer the Everyday Yay, that raglan sweater, as an option this time around in the survey. But I've always wanted to have something for beginners to have a video course and a kit that they can master their first sweater with. And some of our designs have been more complicated. So to be able to offer folks like, this is a beginner sweater pattern, you can make your first sweater with this, is something that's really important to me, because I want folks to feel like they've got videos, they've got support from Anne and Cheryl to actually finish their first sweater. And we know that when makers finish their first sweater, it opens up this whole new world to them creatively and really inspires them to go on and do amazing, awesome new things. So that is important to me, and that's why the Kaleidoscope has been a bonus for so long. However, we are going to release the Kaleidoscopes out into the world at some point soon. I'm not sure when exactly, but sometime soon. So that will be out there in the world, not as part of the make along, starting this year. All right. Let's see your other question, which is a big one. It is a big, fun question, and it is, I love everything about your house from what I've seen in your videos. Is your house unique to your area, or are a lot of houses like it there? I'd love to hear the story of when you bought it. Like, did you love it right away, or was there something convincing involved? Thank you for this question. I love that you asked this. So when I saw the house listed, I think we bought the house in 2018. I instantly was like, this is it. We had been looking for houses in the suburbs of Boston for a while, and the bones of the house, like, it just was incredible. I love mid-century modern. So I was sold. I was like, Trammell, this is the house. We got to go see it. We went to the open house. I really liked the buyer's agent. She's famous in our town and she's really nice. And so hit it off with her and heard the story of the house, which I'll tell you, but just kind of instantly knew it was my dream house. Everything in the house was not updated. It's a 1961 mid-century house. It was owned by a doctor in our town where we live, and he owned the house next to us, which is a very old house. Actually, most of the houses in our town are from the 1800s, some even the late 1700s. It's a very historic town. And if you drive around our little area, you'll see like the day it was born, or the day it was built, listed on the side of the houses. In 1961 would be considered a very new house in Dedham. So many of the houses are very old, although they may have had, be redone and gutted on the inside. The bones are very old. So it's a very old town and it's got a lot of history. Our house was built by this doctor. He had one of those very old houses. He was getting older and he wanted to build a mid-century modern house, had this piece of land, and built the house. In 1960 and 1961 is when it was completed. When we moved in, we found in one of the cabinets this old photo album, not a new photo album, like a paper photo album with the photos pasted in of the year it was built. And it is an incredible treasure. It's hard to explain. I mean, it's just a priceless treasure. And as we redid the kitchen, our architect and builder used this book to see, to kind of refer back to the original plans. So the doctor who owned it was also a botanist. He had many interesting Japanese plants. That's why there's a greenhouse. We have beautiful trees outside the house. It's just a very interesting, creative person. So it's just a treasure. It's really special. However, nothing was updated. So it was a 1961 kitchen with like a linoleum floor. All the bathrooms are very small and very old. There was a wall between the kitchen and the dining room, which didn't make much sense because the dining room looks out on a pond, which is half ours, half our neighbors. It's very beautiful, very green. So in our big renovation we did this past year for the kitchen, we took out that wall and it just completely added more light to the space. I'll add some pictures in here. It's a life changer. It's just a total game changer. It's made all the difference. We're still waiting on a bunch of work to be done in different areas of the house, like the fireplace. I'm actually working on a gallery art wall right now. I hope to make it to Brimfield, the antique fair, in a couple of weeks with our photographer Courtney to go shopping for art and vintage things. I love that you love it because it brings me a lot of joy and it's a lot of fun. It's very far from being done. There's still tons of things that need to be updated, like the bathrooms. There are concrete floors all downstairs, which we don't love, but it's a really special place and I adore it. So thank you for asking me the story. Moving right along with a few more questions here. What is a favorite pattern that you have designed? Oh, thank you for this question. So I think I gotta go with a crochet patchwork sweater that I just finished up for this fall shoot. It's my current fave. I love it. I love the mix of crochet and knitting together. And I have to really attribute that to Vanessa, who did the Briar Rose recently and combined knitting and crochet. I just thought it was so cool the way she did that. And that, as well as the Maisie Cardi that was part of our spring make along by Joe Wadler, both really inspired that pattern. So that's my favorite right now. It's probably always the one I just finished. That's my favorite. What is your all-time favorite knit collage garment that you have made? Your constant go-to? Oh my God. That is such a good question. My favorite right now is my Maisie Cardi. I'm staring at it. I have been wearing that nonstop this summer. I think it really changes for me. I wore my Curran Cardi a ton last year. My Harley was my favorite for a very long time. And I think I'm finally sort of over that. I think I wore it too much, but those have all been my favorites recently. I did wear my Botanical Cardi a bunch this summer too. Those are my favorite right now. I think I can't not say my Penguano because that sweater really changed knitting for me. It's so important to me because that's the first pattern I ever really felt like I just did whatever yarn and color I want, and I I'm so grateful for Stephen West for that pattern and just really freeing my knitting in the way that I think about patterns with that. And that has led to an evolution here at Knit Collage in our patterns, like with the kaleidoscopes. So I love that. I haven't worn that as much recently, but it probably is my number one fave. If I was really looking back and not saying just my current fave, probably is my fave. So I hope that answers your question. I need more time to think about that, I think. Maybe I'll come back to that next time. Is it possible to spin Spun Cloud and Spun Cloud Light without the shiny thread? Yes. So for Spun Cloud Light, we will definitely do that yarn without the shiny thread. And I think that will be fall 2024. So that's coming, but not for this fall. It will be for next fall. We've gotten that comment a lot. And I think just because the yarn is thinner and the Lurex is the same size as on the bulkier weight yarn, it feels more sparkly. So definitely that is happening. For Spun Cloud, I don't think we will do it without the Lurex because we have our sister yarn, which is really similar to Spun Cloud. So if you want more colors in sister, let me know. But that yarn to me is the non-Lurex version of Spun Cloud. So let me know what you think there. Okay. Hi there. It looks like you are busy. I have seen a blue Spun Cloud sweater with one granny square in front, long sleeves that you made. I can't find it. I really love it. Will that be in the fall make along or will there be a pattern? Yes, that's the crochet patchwork sweater that I just said is my current fave. And I really hope all of you love that because I really want it to be in the fall make along. So we'll see if it gets votes. I hope it gets votes. I really like that one too. So hopefully. All right. I just finished the Everyday Yay Cardi size 3. I love it. I used 3 skeins out of the 4 skeins recommended. I swatched and followed the pattern and I have an entire skein left over. I also bought yarn for a second size 3 sweater at that time. Do you have a suggestion for the 1 extra skein? So I don't know who wrote this. So whoever you are, Kathy. So the reason, I'm guessing that the reason you have an extra skein is the way that we kit our yarns and we write our patterns is always with a 10% extra amount of yarn because we don't want folks to run out of yarn. So our yarns, because they're hand spun, because they're unique, because each skein is a little different. This has happened before when we cut things like too close to the exact amount of yarn you need. Like let's say it was exactly 200 yards for the pattern or 300. We want to include extra because it's way better to have extra than run out and then not have that yarn, not have that dye lot, be out of stock of it, and you're in a really bad spot. So that is something we do, and I think it actually makes our patterns better, and I think it's an industry standard. From every tech editor I've worked with, it is an industry standard. You'll see that in patterns. So I'm sorry you have extra yarn, but I'm glad you didn't run out. And we have lots of 1 skein pattern options for you. I'm going to put those in a link in the show notes here so you can see on our site. We actually have a section in the patterns drop down that says 1 skein patterns, and all of those would be perfect for you. Hats, cowls, all sorts of accessories that you can make with 1 skein. Those would be amazing. And if you have 2 skeins left over, you have even more options. So those are there for you. I also want to encourage you to reach out to Amy Mack on our team. You can find her at hello@knitcollage.com or her phone number on the contact section of our website. She'd also be happy to help you on the phone to figure out pattern options that you can use with that yarn. Can you believe how many questions I have today? It's bananas. Do you have a storefront? If so, where is it? If not, is that something you plan to do? I do not have a storefront. Maybe we will do that someday. I would like to have one in Telluride, Colorado. So throwing that out there, folks in Telluride, hit me up. Let me know how we can make that happen. So that is on my mind. I know my friend in Telluride, Karen, is out there helping me think about that. That's something I really want to do in Colorado, in Southwest Colorado somewhere. So hopefully that will happen someday. I am a fairly new knitter and I really love yarn. I know that you have patterns made specifically for your yarn, but sometimes I find pattern elsewhere and want to use them for that yarn for that project. Knit Collage yarn is so very unique. So do you have the weights of each yarn listed somewhere or weights it might substitute well for? This would be really helpful for beginners. I know everyone else just says to do a yarn swatch, but sometimes I'm not even sure where to begin as a newbie. That's a really great idea. Thank you for that question. We could absolutely list out the different weights of our yarns. Our yarns are super bulky for the most part. I think Spun Cloud Light, Serenity are not, but for the most part, they are super bulky. I'm going to take this and put it into a newsletter and a blog post for you and really like list it out so that you can refer to that blog post to know what each yarn weight our yarns are. 100% you can substitute them in any pattern. I would look at the gauge that's listed in the pattern. So if you have a suggested gauge, required gauge in a certain pattern you're looking at, look at that and compare it to the yarn you want to knit it with in our yarns, and look at the gauge, the suggested gauge for that yarn. And that's listed on each yarn product listing on our website. So you'll be able to compare. And if the gauges are similar, it should work and you can save yourself knitting a gauge swatch. Still knit a gauge swatch, but you could save yourself knitting a gauge swatch. And if the gauges align, you should be perfect. If the gauges don't align, it's not gonna work. So that's also something we can help you with, and you can ask Amy Mack to help you with if you need help. But I will create a blog post at some point. I don't know when because I have a lot on my to-do list, but I will create a blog post with the yarn weights all listed out. I think that's a really great idea and I appreciate that feedback. I am part of the Creative Knitters membership. I know that you are doing a virtual retreat in September, and I know that an in-person retreat would be a complex thing to plan. Have you thought of doing workshops, full day, or just a couple of hours, either in your local area or even in areas where there are a large amount of Creative Knitters members located? It could be another way for us to gather and meet in person. So I love that suggestion. I think one thing that is really tricky about doing regional meetups is that we'd have to make it available to everyone in the group, and that would mean we'd have to have a hybrid situation, which I have looked into pricing on, and getting video and AV people is expensive, and it's a big commitment. And so that is one of the reasons we have not done that as of yet. I would really like to do a retreat for Creative Knitters next September in Colorado, in Southwest Colorado. So I'm throwing that out there. And I think we would still likely have to have a virtual option for folks to join in, but I think it would have to be some kind of separate price to cover the cost of the Knit Collage team going and teaching and being there. But that is what is on my mind. That gives us a long time to plan it. I think if we couldn't fill it with Creative Knitters members, we would probably open it up, although I'm imagining it wouldn't be that big in my mind. That's my plan so far. So if you have other questions, feedback on that, feel free to just send it my way. I'd love to hear that. That's my plan. Regional, I think, is tough to do it in a small way because we want to make sure we're including everyone. And we have so many people that are the one person who lives in Hawaii or Idaho, and I just want to be really conscious of including everyone, if that makes sense. Last question. Amy, will there be a fall make-along for 2023? Of course there will be, and I'm so excited to share all of the options with you. We have so many, and we have crochet, we have knitting. It is going to be a lot of fun, so I'm super excited. I hope you will join in. If you're on the newsletter, that's the best way to find out about the next make along. That is all the questions. I'm having so much fun with these. Please keep the questions coming, and I'll try and do these every 2 to 3 weeks. Thank you so much for being here with me. I will link to that Ask Me Anything form in the comments or in the show notes below. And thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, bye everybody.